Hello, my name is Kiki and welcome to my channel. This is my first ever time uploading on YouTube, so I hope this is going to be the first of many that I plan to put here. I like reading and I like YouTube, so I thought, well, what's stopping me from becoming a booktuber? And that's what I'm deciding to do, and I'm starting off that by reviewing two books. One of them is The Spirit Bares Its Teeth by Andrew Joseph White, and the other, this is a library book, I have to, censor out my city. The other is The Resurrectionist by A.R. Dunlap. I decided to pair these together because they're both historical fiction, they both have queer characters, and they both involve medical stuff. That's the extent of their similarities, but I just thought it'd be fun to pair them together. I'll start with The Spirit Bares Its Teeth. That's what I'm going to start with. Spirit Bares Its Teeth is set in London in 1883. It is a supernatural fantasy horror story, and the main premise is that there's a barrier between the human world and the spirit world called the Veil, and that veil has thinned. So now there are spirit mediums going around. Except they're all men. Women aren't allowed to be spirit mediums. These men have valid eyes, and they all work under this quirky little organization called the Royal Speaker Society. Our main character, Silas, is trans and autistic, and despite also having valid eyes and having the ability to speak to spirits, he's not allowed to be a medium because society sees him as a woman. And after failing to escape an arranged marriage, they decide he's crazy and send him to a reform school for girls, asylum type thing. And while he's there, the ghosts of girls who have gone missing at that school start communicating to him and asking him to help them and figure out what happened to them. And he decides, I'm going to do this, and hopefully not die in the process. One thing that appealed to me a lot about this book is that it's medical horror. There is a lot of, body horror, just, very graphic descriptions, and I'm a sucker for that shit, unfortunately. Don't come at me. But I think it's utilized very well here. It's not just oh, look how creepy all this medical body horror gore is. It serves, a narrative purpose, because this book is very unforgiving about, depictions of, the trans experience, the autistic experience, misogyny, all that stuff. And it uses its setting very well to, get that point across. All the horror has a point. And despite being, a supernatural book, the horror, to me, doesn't really come from, the fact there's ghosts or whatever. It's mostly the fact that people suck. People fucking suck. That is most of the horror in this book. And I really like that. I think it gets the point across very well, and again, it's a wonderful setting to really get that point across. I also liked the characters a lot. I liked Silas as a protagonist. I liked his introspective. I thought he was very interesting. I thought he really, touched on some, topics and subjects regarding, being trans and autistic and society seeing you as a woman that I don't think I've seen other books or, stories really touch upon. So I thought that was pretty neat. That being said, there were some parts that I thought just did not work very well in terms of, writing or, inner monologues. Some of it fell really flat, and it sucks because when the writing in this book was good, it was really good, but when it wasn't, it kind of felt like I was reading through my Tumblr feed. So, some of the interactions and, the character dialogue also felt, really modern for the time period. I don't know if that's just, a nitpick thing for me, but I feel like it ruins the immersion. Because, if you're writing a historical fiction and it's set in, the 1800s, I don't expect you to, bust out your inner fucking, Arthur Conan Doyle and start writing you were born in 1810. But, I don't know. It was kind of hard to, balance, I guess. And it did knock off a couple points for me. It was, enough for me to not give it a full 4-star. But it was still a really good book. So don't let the things I disliked about it get in the way of you reading it, because I do highly recommend it. I did like it a lot. Okay, we're gonna get into the second book now, and I have to make an effort to, block my city, so I don't dox myself. So, The Resurrectionist by A.R. Dunlap. This book takes place in 1828 in Edinburgh, Scotland. Our main character is a posh little British boy from London. His name is James Willoughby, and he was planning to get a regular medical education at Oxford, but decides, I want to go to Edinburgh, where the heart of the surgery world is. So he moves there and enrolls in the University of Edinburgh, and then realizes that the lectures are kind of whack, because they have like 100 students back into this little lecture hall, and they don't really do any hands-on experience. They're just watching one guy do a dissection for everyone else. So if he wants to get that education he really wants, he has to enroll in a private anatomy school. And that costs a shit ton of money that he does not have. So he has to strike up a little deal with this other character named Aneurin McKinnon. And he soon realizes that that deal is not what he thought it was, because turns out Aneurin McKinnon is a body snatcher. He digs up bodies from graves and then sells them to the anatomy school so they can use them as cadavers, and they give him money for it. And this does not really deter James from getting a massive crush on him. This is a romance book. And shenanigans ensue, I guess, including dealing with real-life serial killers William Burke and Hare. I wanted to like this book more than I did. I really, really did. I was really sad that I didn't. I thought it had such a fun premise. It just really spoke to me. This is such, like, a thing for me. Like, it felt like it was written for me, specifically. Unfortunately, it just did not hit the mark for me as much as I wanted it to. I'll go over the things I did like. I'm not going to be unfair. But I will get into the nitty-gritty of what I didn't like, because there was a lot. So, this book had very fun characters. James was a very fun protagonist. I think he was, like, the perfect protagonist to have in this book. Just because he's, like, you know, posh little rich boy. He doesn't really understand the nitty-gritties of life until it smacks him in the face with the fact that he can't pay his tuition. And I think the fact that he is probably just as clueless about body snatching as the average reader is, I thought he was a pretty good tool to, like, introduce this world to people who have no idea that was even a thing going on back then. Speaking of, this book looked really well researched to me. I could tell that the author put, like, a lot of effort into, like, figuring out more about this topic and making it accurate, which I'm very grateful for. I feel like if you're gonna use, like, a specific event in history like this as the premise for your book, you have to get that shit, like, down. Like, you have to know what you're talking about. And to me, it really did feel like the author knew. So, props to her for that. And I did like the romance between James and Aneurin. I thought they were fun. If this book had anything over The Spear Bases Teeth, for sure, I did like the writing style of this one. It did not, like, break me out of feeling like I was in the 1800s. Not that I need you to be writing, like, with a fucking, like, quill, like, busting out your thesaurus to figure out what's a synonym for eating. But, like, you know, I think you guys know what I mean. Anyway, that is the extent of my praises, because this book, again, I wanted to like it more. Unfortunately, I did not. I just feel like this book was trying too hard to be too many things at once. It was like a mystery, horror, thriller. It didn't really do any of those very well, even though it fit all those marks technically. Romance, coming of age, and I don't think it's impossible for a book to be all those things at once. I just think if you're going to be all those things at once, you have to be good at it. This book was not very good at it. I feel really bad, but the plot just was, like, all over the place. It had a very, like, step-by-step plot progression. It did not... None of the stakes felt real. It really read like... You know how in kids' cartoons, they have, like, very simple, like, episodic, like, plot problems? Like, oh no, there's a villain. We'll use the power of friendship, and then everything's good again. And then it's like a rinse and repeat. To me, the plot felt like you combine all those episodes of a kid's show into, like, an hour-long special. And it's just, like, problem, solution. And it's not, like... And it feels like the book wants you to think these problems are, like, big. They're supposed to be. But it did not do a good job of portraying that. And it really just, like, broke me out of feeling any sort of suspense that I probably was supposed to be feeling. Because, again, this book is classified as a mystery in my library, and it is marketed, I think, as, like, a thriller. If I'm wrong, you can, like, yell at me in the comments. But it just did not feel like that. Especially because, again, we have, like, actual, like, murderers of the time, like, included in the book, and I'm not sure how I feel about that, just, like, generally. I mean, if you're reading historical fiction, then I feel like it's a given that sometimes you're gonna include, like, historical figures, and like, it's been, like, 200 years, but, not sure how I feel about it. But, that aside, I feel like if you are gonna do that, you have to do it well, and this book didn't even do that well. Even though that in the blurb it mentions, oh yeah, real life serial killers, Burke and Hare, and it didn't put real life, but it has, like, their names, and I guess the little history lesson, as I said, they were real life serial killers during the whole body snatching craze that, like, would kill people and then sell their bodies to surgeons, and if you're gonna include that in your book, at least make the stakes high, because even that plot point just got resolved in, like, the last 2-3 chapters of the book. I don't know, nothing felt like an overarching problem. Everything felt like, here's a problem, here's a solution, here's another problem, here's a solution. And as much as I liked the romance, it wasn't, like, well entwined with the rest of the plot as much as I wanted it to be, which sucks. And again, like I said, I wanted to like this book more. I really did. I'm really sad that I did not, because what a cool premise. I wish it did better with it. This book got a 2.75 for me on Storygraph because I liked it, I guess. I just wish it made me think more. You'd think that with the characters, like, stealing bodies from graves, we'd get some more, like, exploration of the moral ambiguity. Whoa. Moral ambiguity of the whole thing. But I just did not really think that much during this book. There were attempts, I think, to, like, explore that, but they all felt really flat. Did I mention the rating I gave The Spear Bites Teeth? I think I gave it a 3.75. I would round it up to a 4. I think it's just interchangeable. But I mentioned I didn't give it a full 4 stars. It was 3.75, so it was very close. That is all I had to say, really. If you liked my insane ramblings, feel free to subscribe and pay attention to what I upload next, maybe, if you'd like. I'll probably do some more of these spoiler-free reviews, just ramblings about what I thought about a book. I might do some, like, reading vlogs, those read-alongs, like, book summaries. Who knows, really? I'm here to experiment. And if you think you'll have fun watching me do that, feel free to subscribe. That's all I had to say. Goodbye.